Greetings, my champions, and welcome live to Live with Chatufa. We are looking at issues that are happening in the nation. Quite a lot of confusion that we see happening in ZANU PF. Very, very exciting. The things that we are looking at right now as we speak. You can see that the government of Mnangagwa is really failing to up the game. They are failing really to show themselves competent. As from day one, this government has just been a total failure, especially when it comes to issues of the economy and the issues of currency. We've just seen quite a lot of flip-flops, a lot of policy inconsistencies that have continued to cause instability within the economy, and even businesses failing even to plan ahead, all owing to this mismanagement that we continue to see with Emerson Mnangagwa and ZANU PF. The ZIG currency legally expires while Reserve Bank is found napping. This really is very, very amazing. The thing that has just happened, that imagine that all the officials of the Ministry of Finance, from Tuli Ngube to the Reserve Bank, and all the officials there that are appointed by Mnangagwa, they failed, or they totally forgot that the statutory instrument that Mnangagwa had given over the ZIG had expired, and that something needed to be done about it, only to be reminded by Advocate Tabani Mpofu, who had to indicate that it means now that the date is expired, now ZIG is no longer a legal currency. That's when they started running around and, taking out some statements to try and defend the situation. And yet, this is just a big embarrassment. HSTV reports that ZIG is still legal tender, says Reserve Bank, as they seek to rebut a legal opinion by Advocate Fulcrum, which said the currency was no longer legal tender, since the law which brought the ZIG to life has lapsed. And that is the situation on the ground. And they had to run quickly, the Reserve Bank, now to produce a written note to try and rebut that situation. And they say Zimbabwe gold is a legal status. They say Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe wishes to advise the public and stakeholders that there is no gap at law regarding the Zimbabwe gold currency. The Zimbabwe gold currency was established through presidential powers, temporary measures proclaimed under Statutory 160 of 2024, which constitutes a one-time act of currency reform. Currency reform measures of this nature do not lapse simply because the instrument that introduced the reform has lapsed. That is not true. That is not true. They are just trying to, hide behind the finger. Mnangagwa was supposed to amend that, was supposed to either write a continuation of it. It expires. Once the law expires, how can then the ZIG remain lawful if the law that brought it into effect has elapsed? How does that work? You see, these ZANU-PF people, and this is it's supposed to be a professional document written by a whole Reserve Bank of a nation that has to be following the rule of law, and they know what the law says. But look at how they do their things. Right, the lapsing of the presidential temporary powers that establish the currency does not therefore create a gap in the law. Legally, currency reform measures are not only revoked by another legal instrument. Meanwhile, it should be noted that Finance Act, which has since been gazetted into law, simply declares the provisions of S-160/2024 and is not meant to validate them. Thus, ZIG remains the country's legal tender, and the Reserve Bank will continue to consolidate its use and stability. Corporate Affairs, Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe. Just imagine how embarrassing this is, that they were taking a nap until Advocate Fulcrum had to come out and say your ZIG thing is expired because the legal tender, the legal tender status it expires with the law that brought it into effect. And this is very surprising that ZANU-PF would be so clumsy. The appointees of Mnangagwa are so clumsy to this point, where such fundamental issues, would escape them. I saw quite a lot of people, including ZANU-PF people, who were actually condemning them. One of them was Kudzai Mtisi, who was condemning them and asking questions as to How come these guys they had this thing, escape them? What happened? How could they not be watching out for such very important instruments, and making sure that this scenario does not come to happen? But it has happened. This only on its own is just an indicator that Mnangagwa and his government are just failures. You really, how do we expect the country to work and to succeed when we have incompetent people to this extent? And you wonder what takes their time. What will they be doing really that they don't they forget totally to attend to matters of importance, like the issue that we are talking about right here? But of course, we do have the answer as to what really will be happening with them. The guys are corrupt. They will be just busy in corruption, in stealing, in finding on situations or opportunities of how they can make themselves rich. In the process, they forget to take responsibility for things that they are supposed to be watching out for. And such kind of a response, especially coming from the Reserve Bank, where they would want to hide behind a finger, is just an indicator again to the whole world of how clumsy the administration of Mnangagwa is, and how so playful, in fact, playful these people are, the government of Mnangagwa are, and nobody would take them serious. No investor really would want to come and invest in a country that has people that are so irresponsible to this kind of level. And this level is really very, very sad and pathetic. That is the reason why Zimbabwean people, we need to continue uniting and putting more and more pressure on ZANU-PF and Mnangagwa, that they may leave. They have to go. Otherwise, our country can never rise. Our country can never revive. Our country can never survive what we are seeing, the kind of incompetency, the kind of relaxation that is in the offices, public offices. That relaxation is what is causing Zimbabwe to continue to be a failed state. We are a failed state, definitely, and we can never deny that. They may want to deny it with propaganda and whatever that they do with the ZANU-PF and their Varakashis, but that is not going to ever change the situation on the ground. The situation on the ground remains, real, that these guys have failed really to lift Zimbabwe up. Zimbabwe was even much better during the time of Mugabe. $1 could buy bread. I think it was bread, a loaf of bread, if not two. But looking at the situation now, it's worse than what anybody could ever imagine. So these people must just go. We must continue to fight and bring liberty and freedom to the nation of Zimbabwe. Thank you so much for joining me on the show. Remember, as always, to subscribe to the channel, like and share, and also put a comment. We want to hear what you think about the clumsiness of this regime and the appointees of Emerson Mnangagwa. Remain blessed, family, till we meet in the upcoming show.